What's up, losers? Today I'm back with another r/niceguys adventure. Checking out a couple of cringy and/or disturbing posts, sharing my thoughts on them, and trying my best to maintain some kind of faith in humanity through it all. This is episode 19 in the Niceguys series, and I'm ready to shake my head in profound disappointment. So without further delay, let's get into it.
You see, I'm not a monster, I'm just ahead of the curve. Literal chills first time I heard that line. And every other time since. It's the phrase that made me realize I'm kinda similar to the Joker. And I understand his pain and sorrow. Rejected by the world. Rejected by girls. No friends. I understand him. I'm like the Joker.
Well, a few notes on this one. Outside of the low-hanging fruit of so edgy haha. For one thing, it's ahead of the curve, not ahead of the curb. So if the quote is really that powerful to you, it might not hurt to actually get it right. But more importantly, the quote is from The Dark Knight. Right, not the more recent Joker movie. And from memory, we really don't find out much about the Joker, or his origins. In the Nolan trilogy, he's a pretty enigmatic figure, whose motivations are somewhat difficult to discern. We know that he holds a pessimistic view of society and humanity, as this quote suggests, and we know that he has a penchant for violence and mayhem. But we don't know with any degree of confidence that he's a friendless incel loser, or whatever. All we really know is that he's deeply troubled. Anything beyond that is mere speculation. So if it's not that these guys are actually recognizing themselves in the Joker, they must be, for some reason, projecting their own experiences onto him. And this suggests that their attraction to the character says more about them than it does about the Joker within the text of the film. I can only assume that the reason they find the Joker so appealing is because even if they don't actually know what drives him, he clearly stands in opposition to society, which they can identify with. And unlike them, he actually has the skills, the nerve, and the craziness to strike back violently against society, rather than just ranting about women online. So by watching him carry out his audacious schemes on the big screen, they can engage in a kind of power fantasy, and imagine themselves in his position, exacting righteous revenge on the society that shunned them, rather than seeing the character as the sadistic agent of chaos that he really is. In other words, the Joker makes being a social outcast seem cool, and allows a certain kind of guy to form a positive identity around being a quote-unquote loser, rather than, I don't know, going to therapy and actually working through their issues. I guess my overall point here is, it's fine to like the Joker as a character. I myself find him a fascinating and compelling villain. But he's not a role model, haha. So maybe rather than writing love letters to a vicious psychopath, you could look up to someone who's actually admirable, and reflect on the ways in which you fall short of their lofty example. Just a thought.
I hate that I still have feelings for the girls I went to high school with. I'm almost 30, and yet I'm a bit a virgin. I deal with depression and social anxiety all the time. I blame those snobby popular girls for all of this. I went to school with beautiful, pageant-winning snobs. No matter how hard I tried, I would always get rejected by them. And they would make fun of me. They thought I was a joke. Despite how they treated me, I couldn't stop myself from being infatuated with them. They were too busy fricking the jocks that bullied me, and 20-year-old dudes at parties, to give a damn about me. I'm so sick of seeing these women on social media, with their husbands, most of which just look like unimpressive country boys. But I guess that's what's handsome, right? Anyways, I keep having this fantasy about them, where I dominate them in bed, and they tell me that they want more. Like, I'm being super rough, and they just keep coming back for more. I know that won't happen, but it helps me deal with my trauma about them. Lastly, one of these girls, who most guys voted as the prettiest, saw me at an event recently, and she came up to me and hugged me, and went on about how we were good friends who grew up together. Her friends were watching, and were like, oh, she's so fake. She definitely rejected my friend request not too long after. Maybe one day when I'm rich, these girls will come crawling to me, and I can net on all of their faces. TLDR, I'm jaded and upset with the girls I went to school with.
Wow, this guy sounds like a prize. Doesn't he? I can't imagine why he's had such a difficult time attracting women. I jest, of course. Really, he seems like a miserable piece of work. Whether it's his blaming his depression and anxiety on high school girls for not throwing themselves at him, his pathetic snipes at the men who ended up with these girls, or his disgusting fantasies of restoring his masculinity through violent domination. Just about everything this guy had to say for himself only convinced me further that he was a truly pitiful little man, who deserves every bit of the unhappiness that comes his way, and who I genuinely hope that no woman is unlucky enough to find herself at the mercy of. Because, yikes, could that end badly? What's most striking about it all is how old he is. The man is nearly 30. For frick's sake, how is it even possible to be a decade removed from high school and still not have experienced even a modicum of personal growth? Like, this is the sort of shit I would expect to see from a 14-year-old. Not a grown-ass adult. Sad doesn't even begin to cover it. This guy really graduated out into the wide world, with all its broadened horizons, new opportunities, and fresh starts, and was like, nah, I'll just stew over not getting laid at high school till the end of time. Unbelievable. Can we also talk about how he's specifically targeting this diatribe towards beautiful, pageant-winning girls? So it's not even like he's complaining that nobody gave him a chance. He's crying over the fact that the most glamorous and popular girls in his entire school didn't want to go out with him. Well, excuse me, but boo fricking who? Nobody is entitled to anybody else's affection. And if you set the bar super high, you can't exactly get mad at women for having high standards of their own, even when those standards mean that they don't give you a second look. And for what it's worth, maybe if you had bothered to look beyond the beautiful pageant winners, whom you clearly don't actually like, and just view as status symbols, at any point through your high school years, or the entire decade that followed, you would have been able to find happiness elsewhere. Because while it's perfectly okay to value looks on some level, relationships are not just about finding the prettiest, richest, or highest status person you can to attach yourself to. They are about real human connection. If this guy had set his ego and sense of entitlement aside for a moment, and actually considered women as human beings, rather than trophies or sexual conquests, maybe he could have found all of the love, sex, and validation that he so clearly yearns for. But as things stand, he's made his bed, and now he's got to lie in it, alone, and I don't feel sorry for him in the slightest.
I search for her obituary every day. It's the only connection I have with her now. When I think of her, I don't wonder, is she happy? Does she enjoy her new job? Did she get a new car finally? She's still getting treated. What can I do to make her life a little easier? No. All I do is search for her obituary and move on. This is what our entire relationship has become. This is what believing in soulmates gets you. All because I couldn't just shut the frick up and stop giving a shit about her. I cared too much, and instead of seeing that, she treated me like a fricking creep. Doesn't matter. One sec. Apparently not dead yet. Moving on.
Wow, this sure sounds like a healthy daily ritual, doesn't it? Some people go for a walk. Some people meditate. Some people do yoga. This guy searches for his ex's obituary. Not alarming in the slightest. I don't know whether this guy was really in a relationship with the girl he's talking about here, or if it was just a one-sided fixation. The latter possibility certainly wouldn't surprise me, given the tendency of nice guys' trademark to play out romantic fantasies in their head. But either way, it shouldn't affect my analysis too much. Other than that, it's a fair bit creepier if the two of them never actually dated. But anyway, I'll assume that they did in fact go out in some capacity, to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, and for the sake of convenience. We have basically no information to go on in evaluating this guy's relationship breakdown. But however it went down, it's hard to deny that his ex is probably better off without him. Even if it's not, technically, causing anyone any harm, to look through the obituaries to see if your ex is dead yet. It is remarkably morbid, and it's not the behavior of someone who is at all emotionally stable. I understand that breakups and rejections can be brutal, and I understand that people have their own ways of dealing with heartbreak. But a big part of being a mature adult is learning to accept when things don't work out, and move on with your life in a healthy manner. It might not seem like it when the wound is still fresh. But there are other fish in the sea, and if you keep an open mind, there's nothing to say that you won't be just as happy, or even happier still, with someone else. But as I say, this requires you to let go of the past, not to constantly dwell on perceived slights against you, or muse on the prospect of your ex's death. The post laments that believing in soulmates has led him to where he is now, and I obviously don't agree with him, because plenty of people can believe in the soulmate concept without turning into macabre weirdos. But I do think it's worth questioning whether viewing romance in such dramatic, all or nothing terms is really healthy or beneficial. Like, the primary purpose of relationships should be, as far as I can see, to bring joy and satisfaction into one's life, and believing that there is only one right partner for everybody has the capacity to be a major impediment to this. If you are in a relationship that is not making you happy, or, even worse, has become toxic or abusive, you should not stick around and hope for things to improve, based on a misguided belief that your present partner is the only partner for you. And equally, if you lose someone with whom you were happy, whether through a breakup or through death, you should not give up on all possible future relationships, out of resignation to the fact that they just won't be the same, because while no, they won't be the same, this does not mean that they won't be good. Different people can enrich our lives in different and unique ways. And this is something to be embraced, not hidden away from. In other words, if you go through a bad breakup, by all means, cry, eat a tub of ice cream, get drunk and complain about your ex with your friends. These are all part of the healing process. But don't let the past consume you, such that you forego what could be a great future, and definitely don't become obsessed with the thought of your ex dying. Because that's just high-tier creep sheet, man. Not cool at all.
Let me pick you up.
I don't know you.
Not yet, but you will, and people you know now. You once didn't, right? Don't be a wuss.
Yes, but I have met them in real life. Like at school or work.
But you'll meet me in real life too. And it's 2022. The internet is real life. And I'm like the nicest guy ever.
This isn't even Tinder. This isn't a dating app. I am not getting into a stranger's car.
Lol, really? I guess not then. Sigh. I'm nice stranger, so there is no danger.
I don't even know what your intentions even really are. For all I know.
Don't be so defensive. My intentions are good.
This one isn't as heavy or over the top ridiculous as the other ones, but there were a couple of things about it that made me chuckle. So I thought that it would be a good note to end the video on. So here are some of my amusing observations. 1. This guy really thought he could bamboozle her with the "you don't know me yet, but you didn't always know the people you know now" point, 'cause that totally assuages any concerns one might have about getting into a car with a random stranger. Right, like, I'm pretty sure that however this woman got to know her friends and associates, it was in a far safer and more, for lack of a better word, normal, social setting, than meeting up with them alone, as strangers, in an enclosed environment, so this attempt at reassurance doesn't really cut the mustard. But nice try though. 2. He really oversold himself with the "I'm the nicest guy ever" line, didn't he? I mean, it's one thing to say that you're nice. But the nicest ever, that's just taking things too far. Next thing he'll be calling himself the best thing since sliced bread, haha. But yeah, I think that going so overboard in praising his niceness only has the opposite effect. And makes him seem extra suspicious. But who knows, maybe he really is that nice. And I'm just too cynical. 3. I don't think that you can cancel out the whole stranger danger fear by telling the other party that you're a quote nice stranger. I mean, all those guys driving around in white vans, handing out candy to children, would probably call themselves nice too. In fact, I think that that's the whole point of the candy. But that doesn't mean that they're actually trustworthy. And it sure as shit doesn't mean that anyone should be giving them the benefit of the doubt. Once again, nice try though. 4. I find it genuinely strange how persistent this guy is in his brute force efforts to get her to turn her brain off and go along with his plans. Like, she's already clearly told him that she's not comfortable meeting up with him. And why, but he still thinks that by lamely insisting that his intentions are good, she will just shrug her shoulders, say okay, and bow to his wishes. In spite of her better judgment. Like, this guy might be creepy. And he might not be overly convincing. But he sure is tenacious. And you've got to give him a certain amount of credit for that. If nothing else, haha. All in all, I think that this woman probably did the right thing by refusing to meet up with our well-intentioned, nicest guy ever. Here, maybe she really did miss out on getting to know the nicest guy in the world. And that would be a true shame. But I'd say that on the balance of probabilities, it's more likely that she missed out on being abducted and chained up in some dude's basement. And he probably wouldn't even have any candy waiting for her when she got there. So, yeah, better safe than sorry, I think. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed meeting these fascinating gentlemen, hearing their insights about life, society, and of course, women, as well as my responses to them. What do you think? Is the Joker like totes relatable? Is it reasonable to blame pretty high school girls who didn't want to go out with you for your life being a mess more than 10 years on? Is scanning the obituaries to see if your ex has died yet, day after day, a healthy way to deal with heartbreak? Would you get in a car with a stranger if he assured you that he was the nicest guy ever? Which of these guys most tickled your fancy? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. or I'll make you spend hours browsing the edgiest Joker memes on the whole internet. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.